Hello, everyone. Glad you're here. Every day we get a little closer to game day. So every day we get a little more excited or a little more nervous or whatever you want to call it. But I'm sure it's time to play. As a coach, you'd like to practice more, but it's time to play.
Rocky, is there different focus when you're playing a big-time program like Stanford versus some 1AA school in your opener? Do you note that in the kids?
No, I don't think it's any different whatsoever. We take the exact same approach. Preseason or preseason practice, even though they shortened practices this year, we have 4 fewer practices than we did last year. Our approach in practice is exactly the same. We're trying to develop our team for the length of the season, not just for one game. And as always, we think our non-conference games are opportunity games. It gives us a chance to play football, it gives us a chance to get better, and hopefully it gives us a chance to win a game or two.
You talked a lot about freshmen not contributing. Have you seen any freshmen that we can expect to see contribute on Friday night?
We're going to take 5 true freshmen on the trip with us. We don't have any plans on putting them in the game right now. But we think somewhere in the season they're going to need to help us, and since there's a new rule that we can put them in 4 games and still redshirt them, I'm sure that some freshmen will play this year that wouldn't have played in the past. But right now they're down the depth chart, so we don't count on them playing this week. But if we had a couple guys get hurt, there could be a freshman or 2 put in there.
Who are the 5 that are going?
You would have to say that. Bird, Banks, Cody Smith, Kobe Smith. I forget the other one.
Coach, David Shaw about an hour ago was saying in his teleconference that there's a lot of similarities between you and his program in terms of being physical, running the ball. So could you, or how much do you agree with his statements?
I think we have similar philosophies. I think that they want to control the ball and they want to be able to run the ball and keep their defense off the field. I think that's their philosophy. I think that's our philosophy too. I think that both programs believe that being able to run the ball is key to success. There's a lot of other people in this country that have different philosophies than we do, and they win games too. So there's not one perfect philosophy, but our philosophies are very, very similar.
With a year under his belt, how much better do you expect Bryce Love to be?
Well, I thought Bryce Love was as good a running back as there was in the country last year. I don't know how much better he can get. I mean, you know, we're walking into a tough situation. Not only do they have him, they have a bunch of experienced players back, and they're good football players. David Shaw's a great coach, and he's got a real good coaching staff. There's a reason they're ranked 13th in the country. It's not because they're not any good. It's because they have a really good football team coming back with experience, with good coaching. That's why they're picked 13th, and they should be picked 13th.
What is it about Bryce Love that makes him so good or makes him better than other running backs? Is it his speed? Is it his vision? Is it you see him on film? Why is he a problem?
I mean, I've been lucky enough over the last couple of years to watch a whole bunch of good running backs. And all of them have a little different athletic ability that they use to the maximum. They all have great vision. They all understand the defense because they all understand where the play's supposed to go, but they know who to look at that prevents the play from going that way, so they take it somewhere else. And then when they find a seam or a hole, they accelerate through it. And then once they get into the open field, they can make a one-on-one tackler miss every time. So I've been lucky. The last 4 or 5 years, I've watched a whole bunch of great running backs, and he's a great running back. He has all those qualities.
So that said, you're the defensive guru. How do you game plan for that when a guy can take the play away from where it's
You want the truth, right? You do not. You put your guys in as good a position as you can put them in so that you're not outnumbered and then your guys have to play well. When you have an outstanding athlete in a position, he will win most one-on-one situations. There's no way. I mean, if he was a wide receiver, you could game plan to take him away. All you have to do is double team him. Underneath, over the top, outside, inside, you can take him away. You cannot take a great running back away. There's no way to defend a great running back other than not being outnumbered or outpositioned in the blocking scheme. We will not be outpositioned or outnumbered on the blocking scheme. Whether we can tackle him or not, that is up for question. So there is no legitimate way to stop a great running back, other than your line of scrimmage is better than their line of scrimmage.
And that's the question. If they outweigh you by 30 to 35 pounds a man up front, is it critical that your linebackers do things in the gap to offset that number disadvantage?
When you play a great player and he's at the running back position, it's critical for all 11 guys to play well. But if the guys up front can hold the line of scrimmage and demand double team blocks, you have a much better chance. If the front guys, the guys at the line of scrimmage cannot demand double team blocks, you have no chance whatsoever of stopping them. It's a simple game. And the way these two teams play it, it's even simpler than normal. There are no magic answers when you have a great player on the other side, other than your line of scrimmage is better than their line of scrimmage.
You just sung his praises, yet last year he only touched the ball 13 times against you, had 180 yards and 13 touchdowns.
There you go. There's your answer right there.
Are you surprised he didn't get it more?
No, because they didn't have the ball much. I mean, I think they had 44 snaps, 13 carries and 44 snaps is quite a few. That's 25 to 30%. He's got the ball 25 to 30% of the time. That's quite a bit.
Your own offensive line, or rather their inexperience, was what you indicated was your biggest vulnerability last year. Now that your offensive line has an additional year of experience, how you think they're going to be able to handle the two Pac-12 opponents?
Oh, I think it's the same on both sides of the ball. I mean, I think if you can control the line of scrimmage, you have a chance to move the ball. If you don't control the line of scrimmage, you have little chance of running the ball. So we're right back with two teams with the same philosophy that have the exact same problems.
I feel like there's a sense of rivalry at all, given what happened last year. Do you think a year's gone by? This is big-time college football. Nobody really cares.
I don't think you develop a rivalry in 2 games.
Or a revenge game, I guess I should say, revenge match.
I don't know what Coach Shaw's opinion of that, but my opinion is there's no such thing as revenge in athletics. I mean, they've got a great football team. We're going to come in and we're going to play as hard as we can play. And after the first snap, if you had that factor as a motivation factor, after the first snap, it is over in football because you run into each other. And once you violently run into each other, all that stuff's out the window.
You have played several Friday night football games over the past few years. I know your opinion before. Does this still stick that Fridays for high school, Saturdays for college, Sundays for NFL?
You've been around a lot of old guys, haven't you? Old guys don't change their minds very much. High school football should be played on Friday night. College football should be played on Saturday afternoon, and the pros should play on Sunday. That's the way it should be. That's the way it started. That's the way it should always be. That's not the way it is because of the financial factors of TV.
Regardless of who the opponent is on the opening game, what are the concerns going in? Are the guys, any concerns guys are too jacked up or this or that?
No, I don't think so. I think the concern is we're inexperienced and they are not. The last 2 years we've had a veteran, mature, old football team around here, and now we have a young, inexperienced football team around here. And we're playing a very veteran, experienced football team that is really good at the same time. So there's concern. I have concerns with our immaturity as a football team. No, I was expecting that from day one.
Were you expecting as big of a spread as 14 points?
I didn't even know what the spread was, but it could be 28, and I'd believe that one too.
You go DJ, Rashad, and the expectation for Juwan, I guess. I mean, should we? I mean, you know, it just keeps on going up with your running backs. I mean, what I guess what can we expect out of Juwan?
Well, I think we expect Juwan to have a great year. And one game doesn't mean he's not going to have a great year. But we expect Juwan to have a good year because he's a very talented running back in his own right. And he actually has a veteran offensive line in front of him.
Coach Shaw was alluding to earlier about how Juwan isn't as big of a guy as Rashad, obviously, but is as much of a home run hitter. So what does that say about Juwan when the opposing coach has that much respect for a guy who hasn't really started much for you?
Well, I think Juwan played enough last year that in the offseason, coaches watch every game from the year before, especially when they're your first opponent. So he's seen a lot of Juwan. I mean, I don't know exactly how many carries Juwan had last year, but he had a lot of carries. So he's seen a lot of them, and so he knows that he has some abilities, and he knows he's a good player.
Coach, obviously your biggest challenge you're facing is stopping Bryce Love, but in regards to matchups, what do you think your second biggest challenge is?
Well, I think our biggest challenge is trying to decide on how many people you want to put near the line of scrimmage and how willing you are to be one-on-one with some really big, good wide receivers on the outside. I mean, do you, and I don't think you can, do you try to completely stop the running game? Well, even those guys, and I've watched every one of their films from last year too, even those guys that put 10 guys at the line of scrimmage give up big runs because the offensive line's pretty good and there's seams in there, and the running back is so good that he finds a seam and he goes 90 yards for touchdowns even when they put 10 or 11 guys up there. So they're still going to run the ball, but they have a couple quality receivers and they're big guys. I mean, they have a 6'7" tight end that they put out at wide receiver to throw them fade routes and stuff like that. So they can put the big guys out there, and if you want to put 9 or 10 guys near the line of scrimmage to try to stop the run, then they've got a huge advantage out there one-on-one against a 5'10" corner. Okay, so now you got to decide on, are you willing to take the chance to try to slow the run down in order to take a one-on-one chance on the outside?
Coach, do you ever talk about the environment of what your players might be going into, just potentially being a really loud environment at Stanford?
No. Our team as a whole has been in a lot of big games. They've been in a lot of stadiums with a whole lot of people. That is no factor whatsoever.
Speaking to that, they call Stanford, they're out of school, they're not in school yet, and they call it the library. I mean, is that an advantage that there may not be that whole, I guess, you know, Cardinal Stadium packed?
First of all, the stadium or the crowd doesn't matter one little bit to our football team anymore. It did at one time, but it doesn't anymore. Second of all, that's a huge advantage for them, their football team, that they don't have school. The hardest time to make your football team concentrate is the first week of school, because all of a sudden they have all these other things they're required to do that they haven't had in training camp. Well, when you're at a school with a quarters instead of semesters, they won't be in school till the end of this month. So every single day can be just like training camp. I mean, you can only practice so many hours and all that because of rules, but every single day their total concentration is on football. Our guys just started school this week. So there's another advantage that they have. They get to concentrate totally on football, and guess what? Our guys actually have to go to class. They have to go to tutoring sessions. They have to do all that stuff too. And the worst week you have for concentration on any football team is the first week of school. So you want any more advantages that they have?
Last year you faced, despite that advantage, you faced Keller Chris, who did not have very much success as their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get KJ Costello, who had a lot of success. How different are they as quarterbacks, and does that play into what you were talking about?
They're a little different as quarterbacks, but there was obvious a reason last year that they switched quarterbacks. This one's better. There's another advantage. They have a better quarterback this year. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, we ought to be 50-point underdogs.
Do you preach this to your guys about the advantages that, I mean, you know, as, I guess.
We're talking in a right frame of mind here. I'm giving you the facts. We're going to show up and we're going to play.
Rocky, what does it mean to have a quarterback with 100,000 miles experience like Christian? And is there an intangible that he becomes kind of a coach on the field based on intellect and experience?
Yeah, I think that's a real advantage. It has been. It was last year, and I think it's having an experienced quarterback that can keep you out of bad plays and get you into good plays, call the right protections, read coverages. I think having an experienced quarterback, it gives you a lot better chance to be successful than without one. And you know, I don't know what we argue about this all the time. Our coaches, I don't know why he's not given the credit he deserves, because he's in a system where he's not going to throw for 6,000 yards. He's in that system. And a quarterback should be judged on how many games he wins. And right now, with a whole season to go, he is tied for the most wins ever at this school as a starting quarterback. I mean, that's a pretty good record. I mean,
from the moment the game starts, how quickly do you get a sense of what your team's identity is going to be that day?
I don't think your identity is developed until about halfway through the season. If you have an experienced football team, you know what your identity is. When you have an inexperienced football team like we do, our identity is going to be developed over the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, where we actually, as coaches, find out what we do the best, what each player does the best, and what we do the best as a team. You know, the NFL and them have the same problem when they have a bunch of rookies. When they have a bunch of experienced guys back, you know what their identity is before they ever start a game. Right now, we don't know exactly, truly what our identity is. We know what theirs is.
So once the game kind of gets going in the initial minutes, are you looking for anything in particular to say your guys are at a certain comfort level in this game, or what are you looking for?
Well, it depends on offense. You're looking to see if they've changed anything about their defense. Okay, and it's up to a coach. Now, this is when coaching becomes a factor. It's up to a coach if they're taking advantage of us by the way they're aligning or maybe the stunts they're running. It's up to us coaches to fix that. Same on defense. If they're running some formations or some blocking schemes that we haven't seen before or haven't practiced against, we have to do some X and O work so that our guys are not at a disadvantage. Most of the time in a case like this, there's not going to be very much of that. They do what they do, and they're really, really good at it. We do what we do. So most of the time, that's not going to happen in a game like this. Now it's up to players against players. But sometimes you go into a game and they give you some stuff you've not even thought about or even practiced on the practice field. Now the coach becomes very important, that you make the right adjustments on what you call and how you do things. I wouldn't anticipate that in this game.
Your impressions of David Shaw and what he's done up there, considering those academic standards are kind of different from a lot of other places?
Oh, I think he's as good a coach as there is in the country. And he's taken a place that has some real positives, and then they have some real tough hurdles that he has to overcome in order to be as good as they are. And every single year they compete for the conference championship. They don't always win it, but every single year they compete for it. And they play at a high level no matter who they play. And so, you know, He must like it there, because I'm sure he's had offers to go someplace else. So he must like it there and like the system and has learned to live within the system and has done a great job.
You and he cut from the same cloth?
Him and me? Is that what you're asking? I have no idea. Now, his dad and I are really good friends because we played together. But his dad hadn't called me and given me any inside scoop. I'm kind of upset at him.
Anything else for Coach?
Rocky, you said when you were opening camp that one of the big concerns was could you find consistent playmakers at wide receiver? Have you answered that?
No, that's still a concern. I think we have some very talented guys out there, but we don't consistently perform well, or we haven't in practice so far.